How many elves can die to a missile cavalry versus a missile infantry? Well, let's find out. I've got 2 Empire crossbow units, a great representation of the average bow-type missile unit, and 2 units of pistoliers, an Empire missile cavalry. Now, I've positioned them about 50% of their range away from the unit they're going to be shooting at, so that should keep accuracy roughly even between the 2 different types of unit. Now I'm going to let them open fire on the enemy units, and we're going to see how long it takes to rout them and how much ammo it consumes in doing so. The first volley, it's pretty even all across the 4 units. And let's just take a moment to enjoy the elf death going on here. No shields on these units, we should mention as well, so they're taking all of the damage. And what we'll find is that the missile infantry routs their unit much sooner than the skirmish cav. And how much ammo did it take them to do that? About a quarter of it. So we can roughly guess that this missile infantry will be able to rout 4 of these elf units. Now, the skirmish cav are going to take a fair bit longer to rout their unit, but that's to be expected. There's only 60 men in the cavalry and 90 in the infantry. But by the time the missile cavalry has routed their 1 unit, they've nearly used all of their ammunition. And so, of course, on the second unit that they attack is where they're going to run out. So, pistoliers can kill about 1.5 elf units before they're out of ammo. And in this case, that's equating to about 650 gold value damage from these pistoliers shooting at a low tier infantry. Now the crossbows, they're nearly done with their second units, and they've still got about half of their ammunition. And as expected, the crossbows are able to get through a 3rd and 4th unit as well, even with a tiny bit of ammunition left, equating to about 1,500 gold value of damage. Now you might be thinking that, hey, pistoliers aren't a great one to test with, they're kind of a unique unit, so I did this with high elves as well, normal archers and Illyrian reavers, and by the time they'd routed their first unit, they were mostly out of ammo. I think leadership plays into this, because the infantry can do its damage a bit faster, it maybe stacks leadership penalties, which the skirmish cav can't really do because its damage is quite a bit slower. And once again, it was pretty much the same results. The Illyrian reavers ran out of ammo after 1.5 units of elves, giving them about 700 value in damage, while the archers were able to keep going for 3 or 4 units. So why on earth do we bother with missile cavalry? If it doesn't do as much damage as infantry, it does the damage much slower than infantry. Why exactly would you take up valuable slots in your army with missile cavalry and its lack of damage output? Well, it's all about versatility. You see, skirmish cav can do a lot of different things. While they may be average at dealing out damage typically, they can be useful and pretty powerful in many different ways. First of all, they're highly mobile. This brings a lot of advantages. Number 1, they can look after themselves. You don't have to babysit them and protect them like you do missile infantry. Just keep them away from enemy missile units and they'll mostly be fine. Unless flying units come along, maybe some other faster skirmish type units might be able to catch them, doggos. This also can make them a good pick over missile infantry if you're facing someone like the vampire counts, who has a lot of flying units that are good at getting missile infantry, has a lot of summons that are good for getting missile infantry. While skirmish cav will be able to evade these things, flyers may be able to catch them eventually, but infantry will have no chance. That high mobility also comes with the big advantage of being able to flank easily, to get behind enemy units and shoot them in the back. You can also get really close to infantry to ensure accuracy and run away if they come after you. The missiles can also avoid shields in this way, like these Graveguard have a silver shield. That's going to block missiles from the front 55%. If you're a missile infantry, you're going to be wasting ammo if you shoot them from the front. Missile cav can get behind easy though and avoid that shield. So while they may not have as much ammo or do damage as quickly, they can pick and choose their targets a little more cleanly than missile infantry. So good for flanking to set up those easy clean shots from the rear, but it's also easy for them to set up some hammer and anvil. And while they're not going to hit very hard on the charge, they still will be able to inflict the same leadership penalties as much stronger shock cavalries. As we can see on these Marauders, they've got that -14 attacked in the rear penalty, attacked in the flank penalty, and this unit is going to be routed by that little pistolier charge. So they can help rout those low leadership units, all while not risking taking too much damage. Another really valuable way to use skirmish cavalry is to chase down routing enemy units. Like these Centaur great weapons here, they've got about half their health left. They are going to come back. They could do some damage, but if we chase them down, we're going to batter them, kill them off without taking any damage ourselves. And by the time my Illyrian reavers have killed off these Centaurs, they've gained about 300 gold value of damage and shattered the enemy unit as well. They can then run on and attack another routing unit which might come back. And all the while here, they're using their missile ammo, so you can still have them doing a bit of bit damage with their missile ammo if you want to, or you could take them off fire at will, preserve that ammo and try to use it a bit more effectively later, but this can be a great way to get some extra value out of your Skirmish Cav unit and prevent potentially dangerous enemy units from coming back to hurt the rest of your army. So yeah, this can be a great way to use even just a single unit of Skirmish Cav in your army. They can rack up a lot of value just picking up the leftovers. Another way that even just a single unit of Skirmish Cav can be great is for baiting an enemy strong unit away from the battle so that they don't really do anything. As you can see here, I'm keeping this Bloodthirster from the main fight while he just chases around my Skirmish Cav. Or like here fighting the vampire counts, there's a big old powerful expensive Terrorgeist flying around, but I've managed to draw him into chasing down one of my Skirmish Cavs, which he is going to do for most of the battle. He did catch us a little bit, but we've survived. We're using our ammo on him to wear him down a little bit as well. Although not great usage of our ammo, we're keeping this very expensive 2,000 cost unit out of the battle, so the rest of my army doesn't have to deal with it. And so while the rest of my army kills the rest of the enemy army, by the time we've finished off that army, all they've got left really is the Terrorgeist, and guess what? That isn't going to last long facing the entire rest of my army. So in a way, the Skirmish Cav has kind of done 2,000 gold's worth of damage. Tasty! You could also just use them to drag enemy units out of position and maybe into a bad situation for them, like here, mauling down this unit of Blood Crushers with 2 units of Wild Riders and those missiles. And of course, that speed and mobility can also be good for getting after missile units, disrupting them. They're not going to be typically very high damage output units, so you can get into them and melee them a little bit. Depending on the unit, of course. If it's one that's good in melee, you might just want to charge and get straight out, or just knock them around a little bit. So that's like 5 different ways to use Skirmish Cavalry outside of them just shooting stuff and doing damage. Like I said, very versatile units if you can put the time into microing them. Although, of course, we've got the Skirmish button to take a little bit of the micro load off, but as I'm sure we're all aware, that can be a little bit risky because it doesn't always work out terribly well. So you can use Skirmish Cav as a general harasser here and there, or you could put them in one of these more defined roles and have them do something properly useful. But beware the Skirmish Cav's biggest weakness: ranged units. They can pretty much outrun most melee units, but it's the missiles they can't outrun. So you have to be aware of when you're in the range of enemy missile or artillery units, because those are the one thing that can end you. You don't have a lot of armor as a Skirmish Cav. You take damage very quickly. So if you want to move up to harass the enemy, don't just do it straight on from the front of the enemy army, because you're going to get shot to pieces like this. Instead, if you really want to harass the enemy early, you could sneak in from one of the flanks at the edges of their army, out the way of the missiles, out the way of the artillery, drop a few shots. Maybe you want to try and bait some units away, or maybe you want to try and antagonize the enemy army into coming to attacking you instead of just sitting there defensively. At least this way we can keep our Missile Cavs mostly safe from damage until a good tactical opportunity opens up, like chasing down a routed unit or getting after some missiles. And it goes without saying that in terms of doing damage to the enemies, you want to look for those more expensive targets, because of course you're going to get more gold value damage done if you're blasting down stronger units. The trouble is, most stronger units are pretty well armored, and most Missile Cavs aren't armor piercing, so you got to try to pick and choose your targets, but sometimes it could still be worth shooting at something that's not your optimal target. And I should mention flying Skirmish Cav as well. Although there's not too many of these units in the game, things like Pterodons, you can use these in pretty much the same way as normal Skirmish Cavalry. They can have pretty much all the same uses: able to flank, able to inflict those leadership penalties, able to chase down routing units, etc. And like I just mentioned, focus the stronger targets even if they're a little bit more armored. These Pterodons have a pretty strong missile at 67 damage. Been shooting at Manfred, who is fairly armored, but they've still managed to rack up 700 damage just shooting at him. Haven't even used their bombs yet, and they can go into melee once they've run out of ammo, so they could probably get over 1,000 damage easy. So a lot of different skirmish units have a lot of potential to get a lot of gold value out of them if you use them well. We should also mention the 2 different types of Missile Cav, the ones that can shoot in 360 degrees and shoot while they're running. This is most Missile Cavalries, especially bow units, but there's also a few Skirmish Cavs that are unidirectional. They can only shoot in front of them. This is typically reserved for the more powerful Skirmish Cavs, like Grenade Outriders, Normal Outriders, the Dark Rider crossbows here, Salamanders, Razordons, Deck Dropper handguns. These units can only shoot what's in front of them, and they can't shoot while they're running, which does give a very big advantage in Skirmish Cav on Skirmish Cav action, such as here with the Pistoliers chasing down these Dark Rider crossbows. We can still shoot them while they're running away, but they can't shoot us back. And typically the AI is always going to skirmish away from you like this. So yeah, if you've got a 360 Missile Cav and the enemy has a unidirectional one, then you can chase them down like this and take them out with 0 risk. I should also give a special mention to Grenade Outriders, as they're possibly, arguably, the best unit in the game, given how much damage they can do versus how much they cost. How many elves can they kill in the little elf killing test? The answer is all of them. I literally ran out of elves before they ran out of ammo. They killed all of the elf units that I brought, racking up about 2,500 gold's worth of damage by the time I was done, and that's just shooting at a bunch of cheap units. If it was expensive units, you can imagine that could be 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 grand's worth of damage. Who knows? And you can see here, after 2,500's worth of damage, they still got about a third of their ammo left. So beware the Grenade Outrider, they are disgusting. So while Skirmish Cavs may be cheap and maybe some seem like they're expendable units, they can have a lot of good usage. Just remember that most of them aren't going to be absolute damage powerhouses, and thus they're not really about that. So if you bring half an army of Illyrian Reavers, you're likely going to find yourself short of overall damage output. But a single unit or two of the cheapest Skirmish Cavs could get some great value out of them if you use them well. But there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. Do consider the YouTube membership and Patreon if you would like to support the channel. I got a playlist of more tactical stuff if you want that here. Otherwise, I will see you in the future.